The Souls series is known for having some of the best and coolest boss fights of all time. Hey guys, I'm RNG Gamer. I play all my games randomly, and I have played every Souls game, except for Sekiro. Sorry Sekiro, I'm not trying to offend you. You just haven't gotten picked for me to play yet. I'm still waiting on it. Let's talk about the 10 awesomest boss fights in the Souls series. Now, what's the judging criteria? Is it how hard the boss is? Is it the lore? Is it the freaking character design? Is it the music? Yes, it's all those things. It's all those things put together to just create a freaking awesome experience. The ones I can't forget, the ones that impacted me most of all. So let's just dive right on in and talk about the first one. This boss looks like an alien that created itself based on a Wikipedia article about what monsters are supposed to look like. It's Estelle, natural born of the void from Elden Ring. Estelle is a huge articulated spider with tinker toy legs, dragonfly wings, a human skull face with giant mandibles, and even pirate-style mutton chop sideburns. And don't forget the giant umbilical cord scorpion tail. Estelle is a Lovecraftian nightmare set in like a cosmic horror arena. Rather than swinging a big axe or another weapon, Estelle smashes glitter bombs all over the ground and tries to grab you with his huge electrostatic mandibles, and even freaking tosses you around in his giant gravity well. So getting close to him is usually not a great idea. But it's a better idea than standing far away where he blasts you with these giant laser beams. Now the lore on this boss is a little shaky, but it suggests that he's actually a star, like from the sky, from the cosmos, that gained consciousness and manifested himself into the weird horror monster that he is. Which is very strange in like a high fantasy game like Elden Ring. It fits in perfectly. Sarcasm alert. But he stands out as one of the strangest Souls bosses of all. And I don't remember anything quite like him in any of the other games. And for that reason, he's one of the most awesome bosses in the entire series. It's a memorable fight, a memorable character, an unforgettable experience. Up next in the number 9 position is a group of bosses with such a unique design that I think about them all the time. It's the Abyss Watchers from Dark Souls 3. Now the lore says that the Abyss Watchers are tasked with stopping the spread of the void from entering into the world and destroying it. So they're the good guys, in a way. Maybe they're corrupted, I don't know. But I do know they're freaking awesome. Now, what do they do in their spare time when they're not fighting the void? Well, they take turns murdering each other. For just a little while, you're fighting one of them until another one shows up and rushes into the fray. Now, where things get interesting, he may attack you, but he might also attack the other Abyss Watcher. The Abyss Watcher you were fighting might break off engagement with you to fight a different Abyss Watcher. It's total chaos, and I absolutely love it. They don't care who they fight. They just want to fight. It kind of reminds me of Valhalla, where the Vikings have a battle every day after picking teams, and they just kill each other, and then they go back to their mead house and get absolutely rocked on alcohol and fatty lamb before waking up the next day and doing it again. That's their idea of paradise. And that's kind of how it feels when you're watching the Abyss Watchers. Instead of testing your skills, it's designed to draw you deeper into the crazy world of Dark Souls 3. Most people are going to beat this fight on their first or second try, and that doesn't matter. What matters is the spectacle of it. It's an unbelievably cool idea, and you could write an entire novel based on this. Yet, it's just one small boss fight in a series of games that have so many memorable boss fights. And that goes to show you just how incredible the boss design is in these games. At number 8, we have a sad story. We have a boss who is put in a position they don't want to be in. She suffers greatly for her sins, and you have to put her out of her misery. It's Vicor Amelia from Bloodborne. Now the lore on this one is too deep to get into in this video. Let's just leave it as she is the current head of the church, and she has been taking communion with the old blood. And she thinks it'll save her, but ultimately it transforms her into a disgusting beast and essentially the herald of destruction. And what a freaking beast she is. She is a towering and spindly, blind monster deer? Is she a deer? I thought she was a dog, and I noticed she has freaking antlers. Maybe she's a jackalope. I don't know. Now, because she's blind, she has these wild and frantic sweeping attacks where she's desperately just reaching around trying to get you. And all of this is accompanied by her painful and distraught wailing that you can hear echoing all throughout the chapel you're in. You can actually feel her suffering from the sound design in this fight, and even from the animation of her movements. It looks so painful as she's moving around. And the fact that all of this takes place inside of a relatively small chapel makes the fight not only claustrophobic and disturbing, but even a little intimate. It's an extremely well put together and profound part of the game, and it's all dedicated to what is basically a small side character. There is just so much care put into this encounter that you can't help but love it. At number 7, we have a boss that's the whole package. Fun fight, cool character design, fantastic lore. It's Ranala, Queen of the Full Moon from Elden Ring. Not only is Ranala the queen in Elden Ring, but she's the founder of the Academy of Magic that basically fuels the lore all around the story in Elden Ring. And her story is tragic. Her husband leaves her, and so do all the students at the academy that she founded. So what happens? Well, she does what any person would do in her situation. She loses her mind and fills the library of the academy with hundreds of her half-formed children that she basically creates out of the ether and keeps reincarnating them over and over and over again. It's a tale as old as time. We've all been there before. I mean, who hasn't reincarnated a half-deformed child out of the dirt and brought them back to life? Very relatable. When you first encounter her, she is invulnerable and protected in her magic womb, and you have to massacre and slaughter her pathetic children over and over again until you happen to find the ones that are powering this magical womb. Once they're down, she comes crashing down to the ground like a helpless baby being born, where you then proceed to beat her mercilessly as her children scramble to put her back up into the womb. Repeat this over and over till she's had enough and wakes up out of her fetal stupor and teleports you into the infinite void. Now, she's pretty powerful, and she'll cast a multitude of spells that will absolutely obliterate you. She'll shoot stars at you. She'll shoot laser beams. She'll summon other bosses from the game to come assist her. She'll even pull the moon down from the sky and throw it right at you. Now, she's tough, but if you manage to take her down, you'll be rewarded with getting to respec your character after you've inevitably picked a playstyle that you hated all the way up until this point of the game. Now's when you get to experiment in Elden Ring, after you beat Ranala. Thanks, Ranala. In the number 6 spot, we've got a boss encounter that I've talked about many times on this channel. It's one of my favorite boss encounters of all time. It's from the original Dark Souls. It's Smo and Orstein. In the first Dark Souls, when you arrive in Anor Londo, the game shifts. It goes from being this dark and dingy experience and sewers and ruins and freaking poison swamps to this grandiose, elegant, and just downright imposing journey that will really, really put you to the test. And the final challenge of that area is capped off with a fight against Smo and Orstein. Now, up to this point in Dark Souls 1, it has been very, very challenging. It's pushed you to your limits. But this boss encounter is designed to push you beyond your limits, to make you a better player. See, Smo and Orstein, they have different attack styles. Orstein is a nimble knight with a spear that likes dashing around, enclosing the space, and blasting you with lightning bolts. Smo is a big hulking monstrosity with a giant hammer. He hangs back. He doesn't let you circle around Orstein. Oh no, he lumbers towards you inexorably to try to absolutely flatten you with that giant hammer. You have to manage both of them at once. You have to keep them in your vision and use the terrain to keep them grouped together long enough to get enough damage on one of them to take them down. At which point, the other one absorbs its essence into itself and becomes a super powered version. It's a very epic fight that many people would say is the best one in all of Dark Souls 1. But I think there's one that's a little bit better, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. In the number 5 spot, we have a boss that I barely hear anybody ever mention, but I think is one of the most memorable, innovative, and just interesting bosses I've ever fought. It's the old monk from Demon Souls. Demon Souls was the first Souls game I ever played, and it almost broke me because I and everybody else didn't know how to play Souls games at the time. It was like the first one. But just like all the other Souls games, you get good, you learn its tricks, you learn how to fight, you learn its rules, you learn how to exploit a lot of it. But when you get to the old monk, everything changes. When you first walk into this fight, it's just a room that is chock full of chairs. Yes, chairs. There are chairs everywhere. They're scattered all over the room. There's even a giant pile of hundreds of them that the old monk sits on like a throne. And I wasn't sure for years what all of these chairs meant. Was it just like an asset they had in the engine and some designer was just like, yeah, just put a bunch of crap in the room. What should we put in there? And they're like, chairs were the first thing on the list. He's like, go with that. That's what I thought happened. And boy, was I wrong. I get the symbolism of the chairs now. See, the old monk, he isn't one person. He's everyone. Everyone playing Demon Souls is the old monk. You're the old monk. I'm the old monk. And his throne has a seat for every one of us. When you fight the old monk, you aren't fighting the game. You're fighting another player. When you enter that boss fight, another player out in the world is summoned to be the old monk. You're not fighting an AI enemy. You're fighting another person sitting there holding a controller in their hand. And they are tasked with stopping you. They're the gatekeepers. They've been called up to do their duty and prevent you from making progress. The first time I fought the old monk, I didn't get this. I didn't understand it. The person I fought, well, let's just say they weren't very good at their job. And I dispatched them easily on my very first try and proceeded to explore the rest of the area. And not too long after that, I had a message pop on the screen, and I had been conscripted to serve. And there I was, now playing as the old monk, waiting for the next person, the next player to come walking through the fog gate. I got to be the gatekeeper for that next player. I prevented them from making progress. I got to take my seat on one of those chairs on the throne of the old monk. At number 4, we have the most awesome fight in all of Dark Souls 1. I love it so much that I have a poster sitting on my wall right over there commemorating the fight. It's Sith, the Great Gray Wolf. Now I know it says he's a wolf, but really Sith is nothing more than a loyal dog who is guarding the grave of his master, who perished trying to hold off the void in his attempt to save all of us. He's a poor dog who's left all alone, laying by the grave of the fallen Artorias. And when you come walking into that graveyard, Sith stands up, wields his master's sword as best he can, and tries to stop you from desecrating the grave of the person he loved so much. Now he fights like a wolf. He jumps around, he paws at you. He slings the sword around by its hilt, rotating on his teeth. Now, he's not very formidable when compared to you, the freaking harbinger of death, who has massacred hundreds and hundreds of enemies at this point and taken down over a dozen bosses already, but he never gives up. He fights you all the way to the end. Even after you injure him gravely, he hobbles and hops around on his failing legs, trying his hardest to prove to his master that he's a good dog. He never gives up until you, the player, have to put him down. I actually teared up when I had to take down Sith. He's the best and most memorable boss fight in all of Dark Souls 1. Sith was a great dog. At number 3, we have another boss, a couple of bosses, that also deal with loyalty. It's Loic and Laurian from Dark Souls 3. Now, Loic and Laurian are the sons of the final bosses of Dark Souls 3. They're the princes of the kingdom, and they are cursed with terrible genetic afflictions, like many other royals from history, you know, because of reasons. Now, the fight begins with just Laurian, who, while a hulking and powerful foe, doesn't have the use of his legs. He's hobbled. He has to drag himself along the floor with his flippin' arms. But that doesn't stop him. He's still out for blood, and he's gonna stop you from ending the royal line. And he has a little trick up his sleeve, because his brother teleports him all around the freaking arena, usually behind you, where he proceeds to smack you in the back with his giant sword. And you can hear the disappointment in the younger brother's voice after you take down his older brother, and he is forced to teleport himself over to his fallen sibling and whisper in his ear that his time is not over yet. He resurrects his dead brother and proceeds to mount him and ride him like a horse. This legless brother has to carry his sickly sibling on his back while you fight the two of them simultaneously. The fight continues as before, with sneaky teleporting and wild slashes from the freaking flaming sword, but now you also have to contend with spells being cast from the younger brother who's mounted on his older brother's back. There's something grotesque but oddly touching about an older brother having to bear his younger brother on his back, despite the fact that his legs don't even work. And even though he's bearing the weight of his younger brother, he never gets a rest. When you take him down, his younger brother just keeps bringing him back over and over and over again, and will force his brother to carry that burden until you finally take the spoiled brat out. Finally, the older brother gets a break, only after you kill the younger one. I love this fight. I think the design of this is so cool. I love the symbolism behind it. I love the lore. I love the mechanics. It's an incredible fight, and it's my favorite one from Dark Souls 3, except for number 2. The soul of Cinder At the end of Dark Souls 1, you have the option of walking away and letting the flame of the world die. Or you can use your own body to kindle the flame and hold off the end of the world just a little bit longer. How long? Well, apparently till the end of Dark Souls 3. I was shocked to learn that the final boss from the third game of the series is actually your character from Dark Souls 1. You, the old character, has been waiting patiently for someone strong enough to come and kill him, and to rekindle, to relink the flame once again, just to give that world a little bit more time. But you have to be worthy. You have to be worthy. He has the skills and techniques from your character from Dark Souls 1 and the skills and techniques from the final boss of Dark Souls 1. He is all of the people who have ever linked the flame, rolled into one, and you can tell. He's a formidable foe and will absolutely tear you apart if you aren't prepared. It's a fitting and awe-inspiring way to end the Souls series. And as I realized what was happening as I was fighting this boss, a smile came across my face. I remember learning to parry the final boss from Dark Souls 1, and those skills were still with me as I had to parry them once again here in Dark Souls 3, all those years later. How memorable, and what a great way to end the Souls series. And here we are at the most awesome boss fight I've ever seen in any game. Not just in Souls, not just in Bloodborne, not just in Elden Ring, all games. It's Scourge Redon from Elden Ring. In all of the Souls games, you can summon friends, NPCs, and even strangers to help you take down a boss that you may be struggling with. But what if I told you that there was a flippin' festival being held in Elden Ring where everyone was getting together to take down the boss that was causing a huge headache for everyone in the world? Scourge Redon has got to go down. By God, we're sick of him. He needs to be taken out. It's like Julius Caesar on the floor of the Senate when every senator walks down there and proceeds to stab him all at once. You gonna come on down, help us take out Redon? Are you with us or are you against us? You enter into a giant arena that is so large you have to ride your horse across it to traverse it. And along the way, you gather your band of allies that consist of all of the coolest characters and NPCs in Elden Ring. And you set out across the dunes, side by side, to take down the Scourge of the land. The Scourge so bad that he's the Scourge of the stars. Scourge Redon. Now he rides around on his normal-sized horse that wasn't lucky enough to grow to the monstrous size of his rider, but he just has to keep doing it anyway. The freaking poor horse never gets a break. He has to carry around a rider that is easily 20 times his size and easily 20 times too big for him. As you and your friends just mercilessly wail on Redon, he will shoot laser beams. He dashes around and spins and twirls and knocks everyone around like rag dolls and is generally a huge nuisance. That is, until you beat him down enough, at which point he teleports up into the sky and comes crashing down onto you as a giant flaming comet. Standing there in that open field and looking up at the night sky and seeing a giant ball of fire come flying towards you is an unbelievably epic experience. And I've never really encountered that in any other game, at least not like this. After that, the remaining forces on the battlefield proceed to take him out. and there is much rejoicing around the land as everyone is finally glad to be rid of the character they all hate. It is so cool. It is an incredible boss fight. While it's not the toughest one out there, the lore and the general spectacle of it is unparalleled. I've never seen anything like it. I loved it so much. And I hope you loved the content. If you did, do me a favor, do that right there. Subscribe to the channel, give me a like, leave me a comment. I answer every single comment. That's the best way to help the channel. But if you want to do a little bit more, you can become a channel member or a Patreon supporter by clicking one of the links in the description down below. For as little as 99 cents, you get access to the videos early, you get access to member exclusive videos. There's a whole bunch of things you can do in the different tiers. Every dollar goes right back into this channel to buy equipment like cameras and lights and things like that, and to pay myself back for all the money I've spent doing YouTube. There's also an Amazon affiliate link down below. If you click that link and then order something through Amazon, good old RNG Gamer here gets a little bit of money back for it. It doesn't cost you anything else, but it helps me out some. So I appreciate it if you do that. You can see the names of the channel members and Patreon supporters on the screen right now. I really appreciate you guys. I couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you liked this video, you're definitely gonna like this one right here, where I talk about the hardest bosses of all time. You might even see a boss or two from this list that makes it onto that list. So go check that out. YouTube thinks you would like it. I think you would like it. I'll catch you guys next time.